So we can start.
Anubhuti, you can start now.
Good morning, everyone. Before we begin the program, I request everyone to please keep their video and audio off so as to avoid streaming errors. Please keep checking the chat box for instructions, requests, and information throughout the event. We may communicate with the participants for important concerns through the chat box. Kindly write your questions through the chat box as well. Kindly fill the feedback form that will be circulated at the end through the chat box. In case of misconduct, the participant responsible will have to be removed from the meeting. We request your cooperation in conducting this virtual event smoothly. Our distinguished guests, teachers, and my dear friends, I, Anubhuti, on behalf of the Forbes, the Business Economic Society of Shivaji College, extend a hearty and warm welcome to the webinar on digital revolution. India is on the edge of transformative opportunity to gain global leadership. The Digital India campaign has resulted in the digital revolution in India. The adoption of technology has significantly added to the digital momentum, providing greater opportunities for market spaces. It has even transformed the socioeconomic fabric of the country. Powered by the increased use of technology, digitalization has given grounds to businesses to move beyond the national markets, creating interconnections across the globe, thereby enhancing their digital footprint. The webinar aims to explain new opportunities presented by the rise of digitalization and the related challenges. Further, it will enlighten the audience to the greater use of the digital activities by various businesses. We have amongst us Dr. Kirti Sharma, Assistant Professor in Management Development Institute, Gurgaon, and we also have amongst us renowned business strategist and consultant, Ms. Chanpreet Arora. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you.
It is indeed an honor and privilege. I also take much pleasure in extending a warm welcome to all of our participants. Before I request Dr. Kirti and Ms. Chanpreet to throw more light on the dynamics of the digital revolution, let me please invite Kabir to take you through their iconic careers.
Thank you, anybody. Let me introduce you to Dr. Kirti Sharma. Dr. Kirti Sharma, currently working as an assistant professor in MDI Gurgaon. She's also a member of Communication Strategy Committee, Ministry of Statistics Program, Implementation Government of India. Dr. Kirti Sharma has a PhD in Marketing Management, Master's in Marketing Technology, and Bachelor's in Science from Kurukshetra University. With over 20 years of experience, she has worked for companies like Cipla Limited, Thomson Consumer Electronics, and Oracle India, among others. She has also over 16 years of experience in academic teaching, training, consulting, and research experience. Keenly involved in research, she has previously taught on topics like consumer behavior, marketing in emerging economics, marketing of services, healthcare marketing, and advertising management. She is also involved in consulting assignments for MSME, Government of India, and Khadi and Village Industries. She has been the editor of 50 coffee tables, created and published for 50 cities of state of Haryana for the Government of Haryana. Currently working as a project leader to evaluate the National Water Mission for Ministry of Water Resources, Government of India. Dr. Kirti has also published many papers and cases with national and international scouts, ABTC journals, and Harvard Publishing, respectively. Along with conducting training programs for numerable companies, including Bharat Petroleum Corporation Limited, Indian Oil Corporation Limited, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, Punjab and National Bank. She's also visiting professor teaching Marketing in Emerging Markets and Institute of International Market in WU, Vienna. We welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks, Siti, for inviting.
Now, let me take you through the iconic career of Ms. Shanpreet Arora. Ms. Shanpreet Arora is a dynamic, result-oriented, process-driven business leader on both strategic operational aspects of the consumer internet business, passionate about creating culture-enlightened, sustainable models. She has worked for the last 18 years as a business strategist, entrepreneur, and industry leader, with her focusing on launching new digital media brands in India. She has recently invested in actively mentoring resilient digital services with vision to help create sustainable business model for digital publishers. Being an active advisor for patenttune.com regarding their revenue growth, alliances, and partnerships, she has also previously advised the New York Times and recently completed fellowship program at the Richards Institute of Study of Journalism at Oxford University in 2019. In 2018, while being the CEO, she introduced Vice Media, a leading American youth media company in India, with motive of keeping its sustainable business model. She has played a critical role in restoring the global revenue strategy for Times Internet, Bennett and Column, and help improve this trajectory from 20% to 40% in certain areas. Leading the whole vision and execution for Formula One in India and some of the most challenging expansions were structuring for companies like NDTV, Network 18, UTV, JP, Dainik Bhaskar Group, and Z. Ms. Arora is also an active speaker and educator at industry events and has previously shared thoughts at Oxford, RISG, SSE, Riga, Mika and Agar, among others. As a student of Vipassana and yoga, she is committed to evolve an approach to life through incorporation of mindfulness and compassion in actions at work and home. It is an indeed pleasure to have you here, ma'am. May I request you both to share exposition on digital revolution?
Thank you. Thank you, Kabir. Thank you for having me.
Welcome, ma'am.
All right. So thank you so much for the wonderful intro and giving this opportunity. So me and Chanpreet will try to make it as interactive as possible and try to take you through this digital revolution. And I would say a lot is happening in that field because everybody is inside, and when they are logged and when they are inside homes, something with which you all are still connected is the internet and the digital platform. So we'll see how this platform has been used by both consumers as well as marketeers for making meaningful products and services and get them to your home. Iti, am I audible enough?
Yeah.
All right. So I'll just share my screen and then. Okay. So what I'm going to do is quickly, I'll take you through what exactly has happened in last 15 years in terms of the digital revolution. And then we'll take you through a couple of examples and case studies, which will be the second part, which I'll leave it to Chanpreet, being from industry, to take it forward. So what I'm going to cover in this is that what are the new ways to reach out to consumers, to create awareness about what is happening, what kind of products and services are available, how to, in fact, sell through a digital platform, and then how customers eventually start to learn about it. Because if we see uh, almost 15 years back, none of these social media platforms existed. And one of the first one to enter and start was Orkut. And everybody started, talking about it. And this is how a lot of awareness was being created. And then there is no looking back. So let me try and take you through what has happened. What I see as an academic is that there is a huge disconnect in terms of measurement and knowledge between what do we know and what kind of marketing practice has been used by the industry. So we did a simple exercise where we did an analysis of keyword counts, various citations of the papers which are available in the research domain, and then we also looked at some of the conferences where practitioners and academicians have discussions from 2000 to 2015. And we see that there is a huge gap. And when I look at this, in terms of academic literature, the number of articles per keyword which are being used, the top 6 articles, the top 6 keywords which appear in most of these articles are either analytics related. Second top keyword which appears and around which a lot of research has happened is advertising. Third is psychology, and a lot of this psychology involves the consumer psychology, the outcome of consumer behavior, and the processes which are being followed. For example, just try, most of us, when we get up in the morning and we want to go for a jog or a run or a walk, we do it primarily in the morning. Try doing it in the evening, and I'm sure when you do it in the same park or in the same apartment area, you would see familiar faces and you just nod and you say good morning. And one of these days, if you try doing it in the evening, the automatic response which is there from you is good morning. Similarly, in a college, if the classes are not taking place in the morning on one of the days and it is post lunch, automatically you would not wish good afternoon to your teacher, but the automatic response is good morning. And most of these are habit forming psychological processes. So a lot of research has happened around it. The fourth keyword which we see is networks. And network could be a social media network could be a network of people, of processes, of communities. So we see a lot of Harley Davidson communities. We see a lot of home baker communities. So Nestle has their own community of mothers who are short on time and they would like to create, they would like to cook something and create on their own rather than buying it from the market. So they come up with a lot of newer recipes. So we see a lot of these networks which are present now. And fifth one is user generated content. And one of the classic example of this one is uh, um, TripAdvisor, which basically we all of us use TripAdvisor to get to know about a particular place. What are the things which we can go and do there? And once we come back, we share our own experience on the same platform to earn points so that we can use those points in future. So this is user generated content and it has more credibility because somebody like you and me is creating that content and it's not an advertisement, and we trust people in the network. We trust people who are like us. So this has got and caught a lot of attention, not just in practice, but also in research area. And sixth one is search. So search could be a search advertising, search could be about conversations, search could be about the price comparison. So there are a lot of search which is being used as a keyword. The second thing which we did was we looked at the academic literature and we saw the number of citations per major topic. And four major topics which are most cited in these research are word of mouth, social networks, decision aids, and user generated content. And see, this is exactly most of us do on internet. If you have bought something, the first thing you do is you put it on the social network and you try and tell people what are you doing. And there is a positive word of mouth and there is a negative word of mouth as well. If you have had a negative experience with, let's say, one of the Uber rides or one of the flight which you were taking, they a lot of time to check you in and things like that. First thing we do is we share our experience, both positive, negative, any buying experience on the social media. So word of mouth is the first major topic which is highly cited. Second is social networks. I've talked about it. Third is the decision aids. So if you have used, for example, if you're buying an insurance product and you use Policy Bazaar as one of the aggregator to compare prices from different insurance policy companies, that acts as your decision aid. So any research which has happened around these, which help a consumer to make his life easy, to make his choice decision easy, is something which picks up, and hence the citations. And the fourth topic, which is highly cited, is again user generated content, like we do in TripAdvisor and Airbnb. Again, when we look at the practice side, that is the marketeer's side, mentions of the major topics in all popular business press across the world from 2000 to 2014. The first one is social media marketing, varying to social networks, digital advertising, sales, mobile, user generated content, big data diffusion, and multi-channel. So just see across these three slides, which I have mentioned, the similarity in terms of the topics which are common as top topics, top cited, both from research and practice. Now, here is the disconnect that academics have focused mostly on the analytic method of doing research, and they devote more time to decode the psychological process, that why people behave or do what they do in the online platform. Wherein by 2014, we have seen that a very little attention has been paid by industry um, towards this kind of research, which is to decode the psychological process, wherein they look at more evidence that practice is using social media to explore the why behind the consumer behavior. So this is where we find a huge disconnect between what is being done by academicians in the research side and practice, that is the marketeers side. So what I've done is I have divided these eras into five-year kind of time span, and we'll look at the digital, social, and mobile marketing, what has happened in these years. So a short term which we keep using for this is DSMM. So you might see that in the coming slides. So a study of, when we study the DSMM over a period of time, we primarily see the transformation which has happened from a consumer to a marketeer. And we see consumers have become users in the beginning. And then we also saw consumers becoming the co-creator in the value creation. For example, when we talk about user-generated content on TripAdvisor, the consumer is also the creator of the content and he is also the user of the content. And the third is that we see both consumers and marketeers are partners in this whole process. So we see an individual expression when a consumer is creating something. There is a marketing tool or a channel which is being used, and then there are intelligence sources which are being used in this context. So the first era which we see is from 2000 to 2005. And what we observe here is that the first one is the individual expression, where the personal portals and communities have emerged. We saw a lot of search engines, search agents, screening tools which are being used. And we see a lot of, one thing which was always disturbing to a consumer was, am I getting the best price? So in marketing, you might have come across a term called consumer dissonance. So if I buy something which is high price, wherein I put in a lot of effort to take a decision and a lot of time which I spend to take that decision. For example, buying a car or buying a house, buying a costly electronic item like a high-end laptop. these are high involvement purchases, and if I do not use a price comparison and I'm sure that I'm getting the best price, there will be a dissonance which happens after that purchase. So there is a lot of effort which has been done by companies to create a platform and a search tool for consumer where you have the best price and you can compare, and that helps you to take a decision faster. When we talk about intelligent sources, we understand that the best way to analyze data by consumer is should be the easiest way. That irrespective of whether you are educated or uneducated. So the older generation is the last one to actually come onto the social media, and they started with WhatsApp, and because of demonetization we have seen a lot of older generation who were not using net banking kind of products earlier. They started using these products, they started using Paytm and started digital payments, UPI, and all of this. So this can only happen if you have a platform which is very easy to be used, and at the same time it provides you a security. Word of mouth is also a platform where you can have discussions and arguments, and this is something which we have seen um, has evolved on the online platform. When we look at the marketing channels, they have improved the tendency of a consumer to evaluate the price options available to him, and he can actually choose and compare whether he wants to buy from a close by place or a far off place, and there could be an extra price which he's ready to pay or not ready to pay. So these are some of the things which help him to take a decision. The second era which we look at is from 2006 to 2010. And when we observe this era, we see that again, across the three themes, that is individual expression, marketing tools, and intelligent sources, there is a lot which has happened in these three areas. We have seen that the word of mouth has started to help consumers more in terms of taking a decision. So there are opinions, people, the millennial generation and the Gen Z is more opinionated than us. We are a different generation. And I see they do not hesitate to express their opinion, and that helps other consumers to use as a narrative to go ahead and use that as a credible source of information and take a decision. And this also helps people as consumers and users to express themselves. We have seen that researchers have placed a lot of importance and focus on these factors to facilitate not just diffusion of newer products and services, but also a lot of information has been put across. We also see that there are communicating hubs which are present. So there are a lot of blogs where people talk. There are platforms like Quora which have come up in recent past, and all of this. So this has helped to accelerate the speed of adoption. Now, taking together during this era, we observe that there are very few linear relationships between a single buyer and a single seller. So the marketplace is here in this case has been understood more like a complex network of buyers and sellers, wherein any given company should find a position that best gives them an advantage to use this as a platform to influence their consumers. The next era which we see is consumers and firms are partners. So this is from 2006 to 2010, and we see in this era that we shifted from a viewpoint that saw the consumers as a target for a network of influence, to the one where consumers and firm were more active partners in co-creating the digital environment per se. Now, here consumers may express themselves in ways that either amplify or dull some of these marketing actions. So when I say amplify, it is sheer dependency on how much can you share, how much can you further like or put a comment on a particular narrative. So this will create either a particular narrative as a viral narrative or something which becomes dull and it dies its own natural death. And we see that there is a likelihood of doing some of these things, and it only depends on where do you position it in the network. So we call certain nodes in this network which are present people who are extremely connected and everybody looks up to them. So those are the key nodes which marketeers do identify, and that helps and motivates others for a self-expression. Now, for example, more emotionally arousing content, so anything which has a lot of emotion around it, is more likely to go viral than something which is less emotionally arousing. And this is regardless of whether the first viewer are of high degree, whether they act as nodes or hubs or not. So purely it is not just the node or the hub which is important, but also the type of the content. What is that which you are trying to cover there? Second is consumers are actually acting in a marketing capacity, which is in an online space. So the platform here is online, and they themselves become a marketing tool in this whole process. And companies benefit from these. For example, when we look at a source like crowdsourcing, you can crowdsource a lot of information rather than doing a very customized kind of search and a consumer chatter online. So you can crowdsource information from various places. And with this kind of massive amount of user generated content which is being created, it becomes almost unclear whether consumers are generating more than they use, or the fact is that the firm is providing content on their own. Are they implanting this content, or is it actually being created by the consumer themselves in the real time? So this is one of the challenge which still exists there. Now the third one is the overall digital behavior, which we see increasingly becoming more platform dependent. So we see Twitter being used by older generation in a very different way than what millennials and Gen Z does on Twitter. So the network within Twitter of different generations is very different. It's extremely different. Similarly, the use of Facebook or other platforms is different, and consumers marketeers have to identify those key consumer insights when they are looking at these different segments across generations, across from, let's say, millennial to Gen Z or Gen X and Y. Now, the last era in which we currently are, and the acceleration and the speed has become much faster because of the recent pandemic, is the era 4, which is from 2016 onwards. And when we look at this, we find that there is a lot of content which is being created around posts and tweets. Now we are now able to actually decode textual data. So we can look at data, and from a data science point of view, we can make sense of what people are saying on Twitter. So we can analyze data rather than asking a question through a questionnaire. We can read and we can see their actual behaviors and assess the underlying dimensions. So that's the beauty of this era, where we see when you enter into a mall, you log into the Wi-Fi of that mall. So we are happy that we get a free access to the Wi-Fi, and I don't have to use, and especially if you're traveling abroad, you don't have to use your per day GB data package, and the customer is happy. But at the same point of time, it is a huge advantage to the marketer, because they can actually follow you where you are going. So they can follow the consumer in terms of whether you enter, you go to your right or left, whether you watch a movie first or you go to the food court to eat, or you get into shopping. So what exactly is your behavior, and their overall marketing strategy is on the basis. So they are not asking you any question, and they start pushing notifications. So sometimes we wonder how these notifications are coming to us on my mobile phone if I'm traveling outside and I'm in a mall where I'm using the Wi-Fi of that mall. So this is the level of targeted marketing and notifications which are being sent to a consumer. And that's the beauty of connected in a platform which is a digital platform. So you combine all this data as a marketer and make use of this. So we can come back to some of the questions which we had addressed earlier, that when and how is it ethical to use consumer data. So as a consumer, sometimes I really feel scared that somebody is tracking me. And believe me, sometimes when I travel, I put my location off. So if you go to your iPhone and you look at your privacy, and if I feel concerned, that's the first thing which I do, that I put my location off until unless I want to use a Google map, because that's where you would require to switch on your location. But most of the time, I just put it off because I don't want anybody to push a notification at that point of time. And as a consumer, I want to be left alone. So it's very important that as a marketer, you need to be sensitized at the same point of time while dealing with your consumer, that how much of following your consumer on the digital platform is okay with your consumer, whether he really wants you to follow him and track him down or not. So these are some of the concerns which we need to address while designing the DSMM strategy for your consumers. One of the insight and a big question to answer here is that we really need to move quickly and share information efficiently with this consumer, because if you want to build up a collaborated effort where you want the consumer to share then and there what you have bought or where you are, it will benefit not just consumer to create a positive persona of him on the social platform, but at the same point of time, it helps a company to create more targeted marketing programs for the consumer segment they are after. So how am I doing on time, Chanpreet? I think I have taken my 15-20 minutes. Can we run the poll and then we can move forward?
Yes, ma'am. Which one would you like me to run, or Chanpreet ma'am is doing it?
Yeah. So Chanpreet said she'll do it. Chanpreet, you are mute. Unmute yourself. Can't hear you. Yeah.
What is the most important impact of mobile revolution in India? Or sorry, do you want to do the first one, which is,
First
is
one,
it
brand.
possible to build a mega brand in
Yeah.
India today with primarily digital marketing spend?
Yes.
Yeah, it's launched.
Thank you. Yeah, we have the results.
Excellent.
Okay.
This is a good.
This is a good starting point. So adding to this, I just have some data which is very, very recent, and just 3 more slides to share with you. And then it will be over to Chanpreet to take you through the, yeah. All right. So this is the recent CMO survey, which is June 2020, where almost 300 top chief marketing officers of the global companies have participated. And one, if you see the findings of this survey, the question was that does customer behavior has it moved on the digital platform during pandemics, and the attempts to do good is being noted by customers or not? So that was the question. And the answers vary from, and there could be multiple answers to this in terms of the importance and the agreement. And if you see, the top answer here is that lower in-person marketing engagement. So there is, of course, during pandemic, because people were not meeting, so there was no salesperson visits and there is no trade show event which was happening. The second one was increased openness to new digital offerings introduced during the pandemic. So people who were, companies and consumers who were not open to digital earlier, they became more open to the digital side. And the third one is increased value placed on the digital experiences. So suddenly, in India, it's very important. It was very important for customers for a long period of time to touch the product. कि भाई जब तक हम छू के नहीं देखेंगे कि ये कैसा दिखता है, इसका मटेरियल कैसा है, लोग खरीदेंगे नहीं. And I remember, my mother saying this कि कैसे तुम लोग ऑनलाइन खरीद लेते हो, जूते खरीद लेते हो, पता ही नहीं लगता देखने में कि अच्छा है कि नहीं, कपड़ा कैसे पता लगेगा जब तक छू के नहीं देखोगे. So these were some of the concerns, but the pandemic saw a shift in all of these across the globe. And one of the things, now consumer is more open to the digital experience because koi aur experience to mil nahi raha hai, so let's at least have a digital experience. So this is one major thing which has happened. The second one is when we look at the sectors wherein the customer behavior change has been really, really visible, and these are large revenue markets, we see the increased value has been placed on digital experiences. It has happened in the manufacturing side. The manufacturing side has observed this as the least as compared to what it was earlier. The second one is you see a greater acknowledgement of companies who are attempting to do some good. So any company which is into and we saw a lot of companies like ENG, HLL doing a lot good during this time. So they were creating more awareness about hygiene, social distancing. They were distributing hand washing. So we saw Lifebuoy doing a campaign. So all of this. So any company, any brand which was associating themselves with some larger societal good was acknowledged more by consumers. Consumer was unwilling to pay full price in the online space. So technology observed this behavior the most, while retail as the least, because consumers wanted to buy their daily needs, like things like which are essential, egg, milk, butter, bread, and consumer was ready to pay the full price online. But if you were buying technology or any product which is intangible, you were not ready to pay the full price online. And there were new customers who have been attracted towards products and services. So we saw a whole shift of older generation who were not very keen and very open to adopt newer technologies. So they always had a resistance. For them, adopting WhatsApp is like more than sufficient. They were not buying online. And something really peculiar I saw was my parents' refrigerator conked off during pandemic. And the moment online delivery of Flipkart and Amazon started after the first 1.5, 2 months of lockdown, the first thing they called that, please order a refrigerator for us online. And I was like, seriously, you're planning to buy online? Wait for another 20 days. You can buy from Sangam Electronics or something. They said, no, we can't survive. Doodh kharab ho raha hai, and we are ready to buy online. And this was, for me, it was a huge shift, because otherwise it would have taken at least 5 years for this segment to shift to a digital platform. And this is the last slide from my side. So Another thing which we have observed in this CMO survey is that the customer behavior is expected to return to the pre-pandemic levels in next 6 to 12 months. But something which is going to remain is remain and sustain. And that's where the marketers have to stay their focus on is the digital experience. And it is going to be valuable for the consumer for indefinite period of time, because now customer has realized that there is no need to waste time, and something which is really not available with all of us today is time. And time has more value. Time is almost money to most of us. I'm ready to spend more money if I'm able to save time. So that's the kind of mindset which is there with people. And this is exactly the insight that once we get back to the new to the old, somewhat old normal, moving away from this new normal which is being predicted to happen in next 2 years time, we'll see that these digital experiences are more like a habit, and it's difficult to change habit. So once, and this is where marketeers are going to have less investment in terms of online, sorry, less investment towards offline campaigns and marketing programs, but investment is now moving more towards the digital experiences and digital advertising, because something is definitely going to change, and that is the habit of using digital experiences. I think so. That is all from my side as of now. I'm otherwise available for questions. So over to you, Chanpreet, and I'll keep looking at chat box now. I will be noting down the questions, and once Chanpreet's session is over, we both can take questions. So you can just post a question to either me or Chanpreet with name, or to both of us. So we can just have our viewpoints. Thank you so much. Yeah, over to you, Chanpreet.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Kirti, for sharing all your insights. Extremely valuable. And I'm not sure how much everybody was able to gather, but I think clearly the research is really helping put both practitioners and users together. Thank you, really, for sharing that. It was an eye opener for me as well. Okay.
Pleasure is mine.
Great. Okay, so let's launch right into it. Okay, and I just want to know how many of you were born, how many of you had your first iPhone? Or sorry, no iPhone, no brands. How many of you had your phones or
Mobile phone.
access to computers or iPads or any digital device before you turned 10? How do we get to know that in the digital on a Zoom call? Iti, how do we figure that out? So
we can just people can raise the hands. Participants can raise their hands. I think that would work.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, you can raise your hands for the question.
You'll have to help me by seeing it. I'm actually being able to look at only my presentation. So
I'll just see.
getting used to this.
No hands are raised right now, ma'am.
Okay, so nobody had access to a mobile phone before 10, so this is great. Okay, so now I know we are on a level playing field because I didn't either. In fact, to be precise, I got it when I was 21. Great. So let's just put things in perspective. Yeah. When we speak of the digital revolution and we talk about how we market in India today, what is the most significant event that has happened for us was the launch of Reliance Jio 2016 in 2016. Just for reference, why is it like the Sholay moment of Bollywood? Why is digital revolution of 2016 really, why is launch of Reliance Jio really important to us? Is that before 2016, internet was, and this is important for you to know, was basically dominated by three M's: mails, metros, and millennials. Internet was a very aspirational medium. It was dominated by English. It was the cool thing that you and I were doing. Facebook was new, WhatsApp was young, Instagram hadn't happened yet in such a big way. But sorry, yeah. But what happened with 2016 was literally the data costs flattened out to zero. I don't know if any one of you remembers that time. Some of us do. The mobile bill used to be 10,000 rupees per month. I used to dread it. I know it sounds unbelievable, but we used to dread it. It was 10,000 rupees per month because I used to travel a lot outside the country. And now when it hits 1,200 rupees, I'm thinking, what happened here? Why is it 1,200? Effectively, getting to the point, we went from 100 million user universe to 400 million user universe, active user universe on the internet. 400. We went from 15 to 20 million active transacting users on e-commerce to today 100 million. Okay, and I'm still talking pre-COVID numbers, and this will obviously, like Kirti shared, have a big impact. What does that really mean for us? The most important takeaway here is that there has been print, there has been TV, there has been radio, but we have never had 91% density of any media media product in the country ever before. We're the only country in the world where we may still not get water, we may still not have roads, but we actually have access to mobile and entertainment, right? Everybody with me? I need some reaction. I can't do this. I'm not Kirti. I'm from, I need some
Been
reaction.
doing this for last, I guess, since June. I've been teaching. In fact, one class I've taught at Vienna. But yeah, at least I used to get some raised hands and something in the chat. And
Yeah.
yeah, so people,
So now,
I think they cannot unmute themselves and they are automatically on mute.
okay. So just sharing what's really changing. So it's not just Reliance Geo coming in and actually dropping the price, which has led to the mobile revolution from a practitioner's point of view. There has also been a lot of effort from technology companies like Google. Like Google has, you may want to research this, Google has a program called the NBU program, the Next Billion Users program, and they have invested heavily in research and to deal with literacy issue to access the internet. And thus voice, video, and vernacular have been the big push that have led to vast mobile adoption, right? And this is why for every 100 new users that come on the internet today, we have 90% of them in vernacular. Internet in India and internet in Asia is no longer English. It is vernacular. It is no longer dependent on a keyboard. It is voice led. In fact, India and Asia have become hubs for innovation, which is changing the way business is done abroad. Like, I don't know if you know, but um, mobile payments was an innovation that came from India. And Google was one of the leaders in it. By UPI Beam, as we are all aware, has been one of the biggest inventions. Paytm. Why was that? Is because we are an underbanked market. And if we needed to enable transactions on mobile, we needed to have a mobile payment system. And in fact, Google has taken Google Pay from India to the US and Europe, and it's not the other way around. And where we see this going in the future is that internet will become very much about the millennials and Gen Z, and we'll talk a little more about it. How are they different to market? And that's the main subject I want to talk about today. How is it different to build a brand online, and how is it and what are the things that remain consistent, and what is the fusion of multi-channel touch points which still remains consistent. And we'll do that using examples so that you can actually apply your theory and practical knowledge to this. right? So what is the future? It is actually middle income. That story in India remains the same. I'm sure all of you have heard this from your professors, that it's all about the great Indian middle class will remain. It will remain the middle India, which is actually going beyond the metros, and it will remain the youth, because we are the youngest country in the world, and we will remain the youngest country. The average age of our country is about 27 and will remain so for the next 2 years. Yeah. Now, why are we talking about this, right? And why are we talking about vernacular so much? And we are delivering this lecture in English. In fact, I asked Miss Iti, is it okay for us to deliver this lecture in English? Because I don't necessarily think that's really the most important language anymore. And here is why. Okay, this is a BCG study, and I love this study because I have worked for, and this is self criticism. I have worked for American companies all my career, with a few smatterings of Indian companies in between. And it was often told that, we are focusing on the affluent Indians, we are focusing on the aspirational brand creation. As marketers of the future, please understand, the moment you choose to be affluent and elite, you are not going to go beyond the top 6% of this country. So if you are here to build a mega brand, if you are going to work in any big tech, FMCG, telco, mass brand, you are going to look at a very healthy mix of vernacular, multimedia touch points, offline and online integration, and we will take examples and discuss how and why. Okay. Can we do a poll now? Would everyone like that? Okay, let's look at a poll. How do you do this?
You want
Okay.
me to run it?
Yeah, no, I no, it's okay. I'll do this. So as far as the mobile revolution is concerned, our question to you is: what is the most important impact of the mobile revolution in India? We should have a poll question. Are you guys enjoying this lecture? It'd be tough to have no videos, no reactions.
Yeah, I know. But this is the best thing I like in Zoom, that at least you can see people attempting poll and then the blue line coming in. Some action at least.
Okay, while the answers are coming in, there's one very clear thing, Kirti, that's coming in, that people don't think that giving access to media dark markets is as
Yeah.
important as making internet vernacular. Now, I'll tell you why that is. All three of them are very important, but giving access to media dark markets is actually not so trivial either. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Till now, every time you build a marketing campaign, there was actually a time when there was no digital media dominance, that Airtel would have two different campaigns running at the same time, one for the metros and one for rural India.
Rural.
Okay. Or that you would just choose to ignore a certain segment of market, because it was just not viable to reach out to them either through print or outdoor advertising, because the cost of reach was so high. Giving access to media dark markets on mobile, where you are actually paying in digital, I'm assuming you guys understand basics of digital advertising, that you are actually spending only on cost per impression. And if you go into programmatic advertising, which is just the next level, we can have a separate lecture on that, is you are actually paying by the cost by impression, by the profile of the user, on the perceived value of the user. The access to media dark markets originally, so if you thought you were never going to reach Sandila, Sandila is a reasonably large sub district of Lucknow, but you were definitely not reaching Mangra, which is a small village of 150 people. But you know what, they all have mobile phones now, and suddenly it is viable to reach out to them through either podcast or audio advertising or video advertising or push
One of the
notifications suddenly, right? So the other impact of media dark markets, and it's a base, and it's really important to understand, is that these media dark markets have opened up volumes of users, but the user in Sandila is not the same as an Anubhuti or Kabir or Iti or Mayank from Delhi, right? You have bank accounts, you have Paytms, you can read English, you have large smartphones, you have somebody funding your access to the app store. That's not the case with the rural rural markets, and their needs are very different. If you look at it as a marketer, it's an absolutely untouched opportunity for new services, new products which have never been launched before. I'll give you an example of a company in Pune which has created an app for farmers who have mobile phones to be able to feed data of their land, square meters, as well as what crops they are growing, to give them suggestions on how to improve soil quality, giving them push notifications of what kind of infestation can be expected this season, what is the rain expectation, what are the closest mandis, what are the rates of goods and vegetables that are available to them, and the business is roaring, right? So it's just really important to understand that your audience profile is very critical as well. Besides the fact that they're vernacular, they're also very different with very different needs. Okay, I hope that was relevant. Okay, let's move on to sharing the screen and the presentation again. Okay. Iti, I'll just request you to just mark me on time. We can keep going on. There's no limit, but we'll just cover whatever is relevant. Yeah. Kirti, you can just mark me on time, right? Okay, let's get to I'm going to run through it. You guys are Gen Zs. I just want you to understand that millennials, uh, there was a Gen X, which we call the millennials, who are currently, there's Gen Y, Gen X, there's baby boomers, and Gen Z. Okay. The millennial term is just a very loosely used term, but there's actually a huge difference between a millennial and a Gen Z. Gen Z is you, Gen Z is now. Millennials are anywhere between 38 to 22. Okay, there is a big difference between Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z. And had we been in a classroom, I would have asked you what it is, but I'm going to take you to the point where I'll give you the answer. They are digital natives versus digital savvy. My peers are digital savvy. I'm digital native, I feel so. I've been very spoiled and have had access to technology very early. But a digital native is somebody who was born with technology, and a digital savvy person is somebody who adopted technology. The millennials are known for having adopted technology very fast, and then grown from it. What is the significant difference between that? The millennials were For millennials, the biggest revolution was when they got access to smartphone. It was the first time they suddenly had access to information, internet, entertainment in on their mobile screen. But the Gen Z was born into social media. Now you would think, why is there a big difference between smartphone and social media? It's maybe because you were born with social media. I'm just trying to ask, is there anybody here who doesn't access their social media account every day? If you don't access it only then, please raise your hands. Okay, at least one of you unmute yourself and say, I don't access it every day. I want to hear that. Iti, is that allowed? Anubhuti, is that allowed?
Yeah, it's allowed.
I'm sorry, I'm just asking. I want to, is there anybody? And I'm even if 5 people say we don't access our
No, Chanpreet, I don't think so there's going to be anyone, because
exactly.
I have deactivated my Facebook account almost 20 days back. and still the app is there on my phone. And as a matter of habit, I just go there and open, and then it says you have to log in. You have deactivated, and then okay. So I keep it back because I just don't want to do it. So it's a conscious effort. And with youngsters, it's very difficult. So it's almost next to an addiction, I would say.
Yeah, well, as a marketer, I don't use those terms. But
Good addiction.
it's a way of life, and this is exactly the point I'm trying to make, that for a millennial, you and I are millennials, we look at it as an addiction because it's not something we were born into. But when we are looking at the younger population, which is called Gen Z, this is the difference. They're born into social media, and I'll just go a little deeper into what it really means. They have built, because of social media, everything changes. The Gen Z builds connections on the internet, and they're seamless between online and offline. For you, for a 25-year-old, when he or she wakes up, they don't look at it as today I'm going to read the newspaper. No, because it is better for me. No, they just need to access news. They don't think that Times of India is better or worse than a Financial Times or a Scoop Whoop or a Vice, because they don't have the baggage of a brand inheritance. There is no inheritance of brands because the media has shifted, right? And I'll tell you why that's a very big challenge for us in building brands. I just want to give you an example. A typical 25-year-old, research shows in UK as well as in India, accesses internet through the social media, accesses news through the social media handles of the brands it follows, right? Whereas a millennial will actually have news apps on their mobile phone. Big difference. It's all about personalization, right? So in terms of messaging, Kirti, you rightly said a millennial and older uses WhatsApp. I just want to ask anybody, let's say Kabir, unmute yourself and please tell us which app do you use for messaging communication?
Oh, ma'am, I mostly use WhatsApp.
Okay. And is there any other popular mode of communication for messaging with friends?
I guess it would be Instagram at the second number.
Yeah.
I see my daughter who's 18, Gen Z, using
but a 40-year-old
Instagram.
doesn't do that. A 40-year, this is exactly what I'm trying to point out, that this percept, and as a marketer you need to understand this. I'm just approaching this as a marketer for all of you. When you look at a 40-year-old and you look at a 20-year-old and both have the same smartphone, it doesn't mean that the same messaging will work for them.
Yeah.
They may be say, because you have to club people now based on their culture and passion points, and not on the instrument alone, because your culture and your passion point is what defines you today. You may be 40, I may be 20, and but you and I may be jamming on how much we love Linkin Park and Kanye West, and my 15-year-old friend is not interested because she only talks about K-pop, and she is making sure that my 9-year-old is learning Korean with her. Okay, it's very different, and we can't be judgmental about how culture and passion is changing the way we communicate with, especially the millennials and younger today on the internet. Okay, so I want to just close the how do brands use the, yes please.
Yeah, Chanpit, you want to run that poll which you asked for? The advertising spend? That's ready.
Yes, it'll come in the next slide.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so friends, I just want to reiterate one thing. Whenever you're thinking marketing first, we'll discuss the multi-platform approach, but please think mobile first, because it is the most important platform in the country today. It is not digital, it is not your computer, it is not your laptop, it is not print. Print is extinct now for all practical purposes overnight. A gift of COVID-19. We'll probably have more trees now. but think mobile, think social platforms, and think multi-platform. And we'll come to why. Right? You already answered the question. You don't think a multi-platform strategy is critical, but we are going to disagree on that for every single slide after this. Okay. And how do you engage? Please stop looking at age and demographic and socio-economic class in isolation. Yes, age is important, but their life experiences and culture is really important. And why is digital a big friend of yours in this? Because you can actually track a user's unique journey on digital. I work very closely with an OTT platform, and they told me that the first thing they do with their media agency is they create a really personalized profile for every target user before the launch of a show. And they actually give a brief to the agencies: go tell me what are the pop culture references, what are the life experiences that this particular profile is going through. And the marketing is so customized and specialized, right from the content, right from the ambassadors, right from the offline activation, and also the platforms that they choose for marketing. So let's take an example of Amazon Prime Video, right? Amazon Prime Video, for promotion of 4 more shots please, will use a very different communication channel vis-a-vis the promotion of their hostel days program, because the users, their life experiences are very different. While promoting hostel days, they created a profile of a person who's saying has to be 25 or below, has to be an engineering graduate or a current student, and has to be living in a hostel. And now tell me what the cultural profile preferences are, right? And they're not interested in what, if Chanpreet or Kirti come for the show, they weren't keen. It's not masked for them, right? Fair enough. Now's the time for a poll. Which company is the largest advertiser in India today? Kirti, can you launch the poll for me, please?
Yeah. This is the only action on Zoom, isn't it, Chanpreet?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Even I'm loving it. It's so
Get up, guys. I think this phone and laptop, this is one thing you are really good at.
Oh, come on. They got a very lot of things. Okay. We pretty much have our answer, right? 58% of you, no more, 40, 50.
that's going on.
Yeah. Faster, guys. Let's see who wins.
Amazon.
Yeah, if we go by today, definitely, right? Like with the Great Indian Sale coming up, Great India Festival.
The big elephant in the room. That's what the ad agencies used to call Amazon in the beginning.
50%, huh? Amazon.
Hmm.
Okay, so for all those who have voted for Amazon and Google, I have a question. Why did you say that you can build a mega brand in India without using multi-platform approach? Because my question is not the largest digital advertiser in India. My question is very clearly largest advertiser
Advertise.
in India. Should we relaunch the poll? Would you like to change your answer? No, let's relaunch the poll. And I just want to know if they got it wrong, because we're not in a physical classroom, so I don't know what the reaction is. I'm assuming no, right? I think you got the question right. Which is the largest advertiser in the country today? You're absolutely right. It is Google and it is Amazon. They have surpassed Unilever. As of last year, Google was number one, Unilever was number two. When maybe this year Amazon has surpassed. I don't have the latest COVID year data. Why is that? If digital is where their user experience is, digital is where their delivery is, why is it that they are advertising in out of home, print, TV, and TV in a big way? Why is that? Okay, I'll help you with that. Okay, the reason is that there is one thing that's common between an offline user acquisition, user recruitment, and an online user acquisition is that you use your brand, you use your, we have to share results, right? Sorry.
No, I think that was the results were shared.
Okay, great.
Gone. Yeah.
So great. So what we are looking at is that it's your brand narrative, it's your brand messaging that helps you get a user, you get to a user's awareness cycle, and you have to get them to a trial stage, right? Eventually. And that's called user recruitment in the offline world, or the user acquisition in the online world. There is a certain amount of touch points you need to create to be able to come into the awareness, and that's not necessarily digital, because we do live in the offline world, and that doesn't take away from that. If I was wrong, then IPL today would not be sponsored by essentially the leading digital brands, which are creating their entire user experience and delivery in the online world. Like we have Paytm today, we have Dream 11, we also have MPV, these gaming companies. They're all online brands, but they're sponsoring IPL, which is a TV and a very touch and feel physical solution, right? Um, please keep this in mind when you're looking at a brand building exercise, that it's about building trust, it's about building engagement, it's about getting a consumer to a trial and then making them a loyalist. While online has become a very critical part of our existence, it doesn't take away that the users in experience or users awareness is built using multimedia touch points, right? Which could also mean events. If you look at brands such as Bira's entire positioning strategy came from the right partnerships that it chose. All lifestyle brands focus a lot on partnerships and experiences. Puma, the number one lifestyle shoe brand in India, its largest focus is on what it does with graffiti artists, hip hop artists, what it does in terms of alliances on the ground, and with its users building communities, and not just what it does online, right? Uh, Intel, Intel's biggest investment of $700 million was in the creators project. Intel is a chip brand manufacturer. What was it doing creating the creators project? It took the creators project across the world, encouraging creators, including musicians, artists, innovators across the world, to bring out the best in them. It actually discovered an artist in Brazil, and the artist went on to win an Emmy, Kirti, eventually. And guess who he thanked on the Emmy stage? It thanked Intel for discovery. It's when a brand takes its ethos, wants to reach out to the consumers, doesn't necessarily need digital only, because you are still living in a multi-touch point world. So now let's just do 2 case studies and then we'll be done quickly. Sorry, do we have 10 minutes for case studies? Iti?
Yeah. Please carry on.
So we're going to talk about, so just to summarize, what's the difference between, what is the Venn diagram? If you think of it in a Venn diagram, what is the common point of building a brand online and offline? It's about getting a consumer to trial, right? Trial your product. And what is, and for that reason, it's not necessary for you to look at a consumer as digital, You have to look at you have to look at as consumer as a whole. The second most important thing we need to remember is that the one thing that was not there in marketing as a marketing head, your responsibility in the offline world was not consumer experience, which was delivery. However, now user experience is very much a part of your job role. If you are a marketer, a young brand manager, or all the way up to CMO, and that's a thread we are going to take in seeing Parentune. Parentune, what is Parentune? I'm not sure any one of you would have heard it because you're not the TG. Parentune is India's number one parent network. It's a 24/7 parents partner. It has over 11 million parents on its. It has 11 million parents on its platform. It's one of the best products, I would say, in social media. Sorry, sorry, sorry. I'm hearing some noise, so I'm just going to go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's one of the it's when you think social media, you think Facebook. Now think of that as a mass product, let's say like Lifeboy. Okay, and then when you think Parentune, think of it as a specialized product for parents, a specialized social network for parents. Now what was the problem statement, right? The problem statement was that parents were not comfortable with sharing intimate details about their children, their problems, or their lack of their insecurities about parenting, their questions about parenting in a general forum. It made them and their children very vulnerable, right? And here came this team, Parentune, and the first thing they did was they spent almost 6 months doing consumer research, going to parents and asking them what their problem was. And their biggest differentiator between how they approach brand building to anybody else was they purposed their brand completely around the consumer's purpose. Okay, so how did they build a brand which today every of your top advertiser, P&G, Nestle, GSK, wants to be associated with and is being associated with, not just at an India level, but from the global level? How did they do it? How did they get here? They built an online safe space for parents. You know how they did it? They physically called every single user for verification. They're like, is this a verified parent or just a bot or just somebody trying to fish data? How old is their child? What is their interest? They started gathering information and made sure this network was completely verified and not just open for anyone. How did they build trust and credibility? They actually invested time and gave importance to content rather than speed in terms of building their repository. They would verify and fact check blogs because they understood that parents would come with a lot of anxiety, and their job was to allay to reduce the anxiety of parents. Having kept that in mind, they said every information provided by us will be authentic. Every information will be provided by a verified user. And the third innovation they came up with was they actually started empaneling experts, and they started just like TripAdvisor rates the responses, they started rating the responses so that unlike any other platform like Google search, which seems very efficient, that you put in a question like, my baby is crying, it's 3 a.m. in the morning and it's continuously crying and I don't know what to do, will give you 1,000 answers. They built for efficiency and utility. They not only worked on their engine, but they prioritized and they made the answers coherent, peer-to-peer inputs and expert inputs, and not more than 5 inputs for a parent. They further invested in technology and they realized that the response time was critical, and they created something called a quick response system, which is actually patented as well. I don't know the right technical term for it. No matter which language, so they called it vernacular response, whether you wrote it in English or Tamil English or Punjabi English or just pure English or Punjabi, they would respond to you in the same language in less than a minute with the best rated answers. And the last but not the least, what they have done and been committed to, and this is something that we really respect them for, is they have always kept the consumer at the heart of their communication and their ethos and best practices. To be true to their ethos, they have said no to money in terms of monetization. They say no to junk food, they may say no to colas, they also say no to a lot of dark content. So if there's a gaming company that really wants to focus on this community because kids are really enjoying gaming in now and in the digital space, if it's dark content, they don't permit it. Right, it's a really good example. It's a VC funded company doing very well, very respected, not just amongst entrepreneurs but amongst all the parent communities. And pre-COVID times, they would also engage not just in calls but engage in a lot of uh, physical event activities as well, which really build the touch point for them and the parents. So it's a great example of a brand which is built online and is delivering everything online, but is still using a multi-touch point approach, whether it's phone calls or um, physical meetups, to help further enhance the experience. I just want to close with with a very interesting and biggest, the industry which has been hit the most. Our street food, the love for street food in India is very well known. I don't know how many of you miss your chole bhature in Kamla Market, right?
Kamla Nagar market.
Kamla Nagar, but I surely do. I grew up coming every summer to North Delhi to meet my uncles. Here's what happened to the let me just tell you, here's what happened to the restaurant industry overnight with the extended lockdown. It went bankrupt for all practical purposes because it's a cash flow, very heavy cash flow business. It's a wafer thin margin business. Especially the more high end you go, the more pressure on the margins, and it employs about 20 million people in India. It's one of the biggest employment sectors, and unfortunately, because of its fragmentation, the National Association of Restaurants and Hotels doesn't really represent everybody's interests. That's what happened in the lockdown. But what has lasted is the fear of the disease in dining out. And that's come to haunt this segment really heavily. And this industry segment has really responded well to the entire challenge. The first thing that has happened in terms of mindset change is that the restaurateurs have accepted technology as the way to go forward, right? So earlier, when technology meant that a steward will come to your desk, use a tablet for taking an order, and even probably punch it directly into a POS after taking the order, it's now going into a completely different scale. Contactless dining. Just now visualize into the future. You are now, as a user, suddenly used to reserving a table. Two, you actually go out less often because even though you'd love to have food by the street side, you've realized that I'd rather pay for hygiene and safety standard compliance. So you will pre-book. If you're going to a food court, or if you're going for a preset menu or a buffet, you may even prepay and go. But if you are pre-booking and going, when you get to the table, there's a QR code, you see a menu, you place your order, the food is delivered, again a bill appears on your mobile phone, there's a QR code, you pay. This is going to be the contactless dining experience for a very long time to come, till things don't normalize, and maybe that will be the new normal. But the most interesting thing is that if that the five-star dining experiences which were out of our reach are now going to start coming home, amongst many other things. So there is this concept of cloud kitchens. I would have loved to ask how many of you know that. It's Kirti's favorite topic, but actually it's very interesting. Cloud kitchens started for sporting events and outdoor events, Kirti. So I
Yes.
used to head Formula One at some point in time in the past when Formula One happened in India. And you
Yeah,
would,
it was only restricted to large events for a
yes,
very long period of time globally.
yes.
But
So the cloud kitchen concept was that food would come half cooked and come to a on-site kitchen. And then, you know, these QSR chains like McDonald's or Goli Vada Pav now, or baristas of the world also started implementing that. There's a base kitchen, and then there's an on-site kitchen. The on-site kitchen is only for heating, final touch, wrapping, and dispatching for delivery.
So
That
even places like Chayos was using the concept of
Yes,
cloud
and
kitchen.
that is the concept that's going to proliferate. Biryani by kilo, I'm sure many of you have tried it in Delhi, is one of the early big successes of cloud kitchens in India. And we are going to see more such, cloud kitchens mushrooming more than the street food physical experience in India. And I feel that this is the industry which has been most hard hit, and it is going to see a lot of wiping out of the lower end street food options as of now. But we'll see how it goes. Thank you for having me. I hope this was useful. I really enjoyed sharing my experiences. Over to you, Kirti, Iti.
Yeah,
Um,
so I have a now I'll just share one small video with all of you. And so we have seen that India is a country of gold. So we are quite fascinated every festival, and because the festival season is close by, Akshat Tritiya se leke Diwali tak, मतलब parents को अगर invest करना है, they would refuse 10 things to kids, but they would like to buy gold. And that's the kind of culture and country we belong to. So when Tanish actually decided to get into something called as diamond, and then we have seen an online chain which came in Carrot Lane and now owned by Tanish. I'll just take you back in somewhere like 1995, 2000, when Tanish entered, and then they got into diamond. And they realized that there is a difference between almost a millennial bride to somebody, a Gen X bride to somebody who was an older generation. That this was a woman who was much more independent, who was working, and who was, who was not a gold heavy kind of bride who would wear a lot of gold and go to office. So it was not perceived to be chic, and it was not something which she wanted to do. They realized that it's important to somewhere embed the Indian culture into diamond. So they created a first television commercial, and I'll just show you that. And do I have the rights to share a YouTube this thing? No, I think I'll have to. Sorry, I will have to. I don't know.
You could share the link with us. We'll play.
Okay, because I am not able to go to that. Okay, advanced sharing options. I can do that. Yeah. One participant.
Just play it and just zoom the screen.
No, but I'll not be able to. I think you'll not be able to hear the audio of my system unless.
You'll be able to hear it, ma'am. While sharing, you will have to put on the audio on the share screen. You just, if possible, you send me the link.
Okay, I'll just do that. Yeah, sure. It's just. Yeah. Yeah. Do you get the link?
Yes, ma'am.
Urvashi? Huh.
Yes, ma'am. Just a moment.
Did you get the link? Okay, so this is one advertisement which I really like, and I would like to then have your opinion maybe later on if you can unmute yourself.
And the link
In
is
the
not.
whole visual, you will not see a single dialogue. It's just towards the last when the bride whispers something in the ear of the bridegroom, and that is all. And still, this whole commercial speaks so much about the Indian ethos, culture, and tradition. Yeah, Urvashi, can you get
Quickly,
the
no, I've not received the link. I'll
I
just help
put
you
it in
play.
the chat to
Ma'am,
Shivaji College.
okay, you shared it in the chat. All right, just a moment, ma'am.
A
Yeah,
personal chat to
got it.
you.
Yes, I
Got
got it.
it? Yeah.
Yes,
So just click on that. I think, yeah, we can hear the
we can
sound.
hear. Yeah, just a moment, ma'am.
And then you can enlarge the.
Yeah, just a moment. Let me share the screen for this.
Sorry for all this.
No issues, ma'am, not at all.
You may now kiss the bride. It takes a rare sparkle to make a diamond bright. A diamond is forever.
Yeah. Thanks, Ulvashi, for doing this. So if you see in this whole communication, exactly the Indian bride is supposed to be somebody who's, little shy during the whole event. So we saw that. And after the ceremony of putting sindoor, when she's officially wedded to the bridegroom, that's where she takes the liberty of showing herself as free and independent. And she says that you may now kiss the bride with such finesse that nobody else can hear the same. And she whispers it into her husband's ear. And then she looks into the eyes, and that's the kind of portrait and the consumer which Tanish wanted to create, that it's the diamond bride. It's not the usual gold bride who's, decked up heavily into gold and is shy and is, totally behaving differently. So, and it was received so well. And we have seen that since then, how we have the more younger generation and the more younger women have accepted diamond over gold in India. So if you see, and it's so full of the culture, and nowhere it defies that you are trying to create a woman who's not following the culture. So she still accepted it, that it's a formal setting and everybody who's elder is also there, and she's not supposed to behave in a questionable manner. So that's how, and we have seen after that diamond was acceptable, and that's why even a online diamond brand like Carrot Lane did so well as an independent startup that it was later on, now it is owned by Tanishq. So it's both online and offline available. So I just thought that this is one classic example where I have seen a total shift in terms of, being totally from a gold bride to more of a, diamond bride kind of women, which we have become. You want to add something to this, Chanpreet?
No, I think that's very well.
Yeah, thank you so much. So that's a close from our side, and we are open to questions now. So you guys
So
can.
thank you, ma'am, for sharing your vision and exposition on digital revolution. That was truly insightful and inspiring. May I now request Aditi, ma'am, to take questions from the participants?
The more challenging the question, the more fun it will be. Please pick the hardest ones, Iti.
Aditi ma'am is here.
And
Is she
see, you can ask. So question is not silly or not silly. I mean,
mute yourself, Aditi.
unmute. Yeah.
Unmute. I think there's a technical thing.
Am I audible? Yeah, I'm unmuted
Yes.
now. Thank you, Chanpreet, and thank you, Dr. Kirti, for such great insights for everyone here. It is, I'm not a marketing student yet. It was such great lessons for me to learn from here. So thank you so much. So I would like to take up questions from the participants here, majorly students, if they have any questions from to inquire. Though your session was already meaningful for them, so yet if they have any questions, so ground is open to them. So students can raise their hands or they can put it in the chat box if they have any questions.
In fact, if somebody is shy of asking, you can ask privately. You can send your question privately to Professor Iti or Aditi or anyone.
I think some questions have been asked in your private chat also. Probably Chanpreet ma'am has been given a question.
Just check, Chanpreet.
Yes, this question is from. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Right. The question is from Nishant. Ja, good morning, ma'am. Looking at a recent incident where Google took one-sided decision to ban Paytm for a day for violation of its gambling policies, do you feel it's high time India should have its own alternative for Google search engine or Play Store or other such platforms? And also, why do you think we have lagged behind in developing these things? There are two. This is an excellent question, Nishant. Innovation is not something we have necessarily excelled at in terms of building products. I don't think we can. I'd like to give you a perspective on what an ecosystem is. I think it starts with a very important point that one, it is very difficult to do business in India. Okay. This is something that the current government has been working on. They have been enabling innovation, innovation funds, innovation committees, and also making it easy to do business in India. If you look at just in comparison to India, for a 20-year-old to start a business, the number of clearances and number of permissions he or she needs to take is very different from the process in India. And also filing for bankruptcy in case you decide that you don't want to go ahead to closure, liquidation, bankruptcy laws are very different in India. So one is there a culture framework and a legal framework for innovation in India? We have lagged behind in that. Secondly, and this is no criticism to the education system at large, I recently decided to go as a student to Oxford last year. And I had a culture shock. Okay. And I just want to share this because I think you're still a student and you could benefit from it. In India, we ask polite questions or we ask questions politely and we are rewarded for that, right? Whereas in a university like Oxford or Cambridge, I was amazed at the harshness of the questions because they were dispassionate about it and the main focus was to ask questions, to gain answers and to gain knowledge. there is a culture of there is a culture of debate which we need to encourage more, to question ourselves, to question our approach. I think it's very critical, which has been missing. And innovation is now, you're very lucky to have professors like Iti, Donna, guiding you, making that effort. Like Keith is constantly making that effort to involve thinkers and doers together. You need to ask questions, right? Thirdly, should India have a alternative to Google search? No. Why don't you create a solution for a market need that exists, and you will be able to create multiple solutions, right? It is not about what Google is doing or what Paytm is doing. Do you see there's a market need for something? Go ahead, create it and do a good job of it. collaborate, build the ecosystem, ask the hard questions, and you'll find the answers. And I don't think anybody can stop you from becoming the next big tech tycoon in the world. Yeah, Nishant, I hope to see your name there.
Yeah, great.
Okay, do you want to take the next question, Kirti?
Yeah, I can. I can't see a question, but
There is a question in the chat box saying, will Amazon continue to be the largest marketer, or Google will take over? Google is the largest marketer. It's not Amazon.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So just clarifying that. Vidhi Gupta's question, good afternoon, ma'am. My question is, what are the challenges peculiar to India that may constrain a full-scale digital transition in the foreseeable future? I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. Can you please ask the question again to both
Yeah,
Keith?
Vidhi, you can ask directly. I think if she's available, she can ask directly. Vidhi, would you like to unmute and ask?
Audible?
Yeah, there's a connectivity issue.
Yes, you're audible now.
Hello?
Yeah, Vidya.
You're audible now.
There's some connectivity.
Not audible.
We can come back to you, Vidhi. I think there's one question by Aditya Mishra, so I'll just take it up. The question is using compulsory CSR for brand awareness ethical? Uh, okay, so in most of my marketing sessions, especially while teaching advertising, I do take a session on ethics. And I use a very small case, which is a one-page case there, where I'll just put it on context and then I'll answer your question. So it's like there was this guy who used to work with an advertising agency, and earlier there used to be a company by the name of Lotus Notes. So he worked with Lotus Notes account, and then he moved to another agency, and they were pitching for Microsoft, and both Microsoft and Lotus Notes were coming up with almost a similar product. And then he wrote to Microsoft saying that I have worked on an X account of Lotus, and I know they are coming up with this product and this and that. And hence he made a pitch. And see the ethical stand of Microsoft. They wrote to Lotus Note sending that pitch that this is how your agency with whom you have worked in the past are using the data and the information which you had shared against you. So it's see, being ethical or unethical is a very, very personal stand, and even in organizations it's mostly driven by the leadership who's driving the whole organization. So as the leadership changes, a lot of time your ethical stands also change. So I would still I would leave it to an individual that for you how ethical a particular thing could be. But yes, when it comes to a question that compulsory CSR for brand awareness, see, at the end of the day, if you are doing some activity, there is a profitability aspect which is definitely behind it. For example, if I say Lifebuoy investing into health and a hygiene campaign down south in certain villages where because of hygiene and hand washing, child neonate deaths were on a rise, and they are able to control it just by one simple awareness campaign of hand washing. So those are the kind of campaigns which are very, very CSR oriented. But yes, at the end of the day, when you associate your brand with a larger concept like this, society does get benefit and the brand does get benefit in terms of profitability. Because if I have to buy between Lifebuoy and another brand, I would still like to associate with Lifebuoy because I have seen an ad and I am aware that Lifebuoy does some social good. So that's the kind of mindset as a consumer we have, because we do not have time to go and do something for the society on our own. But yes, it makes sense to associate with a brand which is doing some social good. So rather than doing nothing, it's good to do something. And yes, nobody is there to distribute free lunches. So profitability for a brand would always be a prime objective. Yes, CSR comes in handy to create a better, more good looking brand. And some companies are very serious when it comes to CSR, others are not the same. So it's purely ethical to use it, use your CSR activity in terms of creating your brand. I would, in fact, ask you to look at this brand. I'm sure all of you have seen iPhone Red or a HP laptop which is red, or maybe Samsung Red phone. So this, what is this brand Red all about? So just go and Google brand Red, you would understand. So brand Red is just a brand. They make nothing. The only thing they do is that they have tied up with all the top companies who know how to do marketing, and they sell their brand Red to those companies, and they charge extra, and whatever they charge extra goes for social cause in some of these less privileged countries like South Africa, towards AIDS and some other disease management. So that's the kind of, pure ethical CSR activity is being done by certain brands, and they have created brands where they're producing nothing but just created a brand. So does it answer your question, Aditya? Okay. Yeah, so there's one more question by Nishant. Good morning, ma'am. Do you think digital education platforms like Byju's that have brought a big revolution in the learning ecosystem might in the near future become just a digital version of Arindam Chaudhary, looking the way they are putting millions of rupees in advertising and creating a kind of hype among the school children? Yes, I totally agree to it. In fact, Chanpreet, I would like you to add to this question as well. See, when I'll say something, I'll be more emotional and passionate about it, because being an educationist, I'm totally against advertising for education. So if you see, I think even among IIMs and across ISBs in the top 10 institutions in India, I think MDI does hardly any advertising, but still we are able to get the best of the students in our school, and I'm proud of it that without advertising, if you are able to do it, it's a great deal. But having said that, if you have a good product, it's important to create at least triability, because something like Byju's did not, we were not comfortable as parents to have our children exposed to an online platform, because सब पेरेंट्स को हमेशा ये डर रहता है कि बच्चा ऑनलाइन यूज करेगा तो पता नहीं पढ़ाई करेगा कि कुछ और गूगल करेगा. So that's, and sometimes there is so much of other exposure that you might not be able to save your child with that exposure. So those are some of the concerns. And yes, it is important for a brand like Byju's to create that awareness. But yes, I agree. Beyond awareness, once the triability has happened, it should be more word of mouth, where the parents who are the existing users and the children should share their experience rather than putting money in advertising. What do you say, Chankri?
So I can definitely see the emotional aspect of education. I disagree. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just put it as a marketer, and all of us are going to be, you're going to be marketers, whether you're selling prayer for peace, meditation, or whether you're selling, and I know I'm being a little harsh, but whether it's education, whether it is culture, whether it is entertainment, whether there is news, there are varying degrees of attachment to the sense of responsibility and nobility of our service. However, it's a product, and there needs to be awareness, and there needs to be a trial. One. Secondly, Byju's, Khan Academy, White Hat Junior, Unacademy, Coursera, why are they doing well? We are finally seeing a democratization of access to best in class education. Till yesterday, I going to Oxford meant lakhs of rupees of sponsorship requirement, lakhs of rupees of investment in living, etc., for 4 years. Who can afford that? Today, with Coursera or an academy, I can, for $100, which is 7,000 rupees, I can get access to a tech course in MIT, right? But how will Coursera reach me? How will Coursera build the trust that it is trying to deliver a new product to you? When somebody or a platform creates a new market, there is a disproportionate investment required for educating the customer, building trust in the solution, and then, in fact, the number two, number three, number four come and taken only advantage of that. Airtel educated users about what caller ringback tune can be, about users about what is the importance of voice. It partnered with content companies to be able to engage its users in content and value added services. Did Geo need to do that? No, Airtel had already done that job. So the amount of money that you're seeing Baiju spend will be disproportionate to the number two who comes in. Okay, or that will always be the case. I'm just stepping away from the education point and stepping into a new market point.
No, I'm not against the creating awareness kind of thing, because that everybody has done. I mean, even if you look
Spend
at,
extra
yeah,
money. Nobody wants to. You have to understand from a currency point of view. If my brand is established, if I have users, I will not want to spend extra money. But the reality is that right now we are in market acquisition space. How come this same question is not asked to Geo or to Hotstar when they make content available for free? Why is there not? And they're still the main sponsors of IPL and so on and so forth. We need to step away from our emotionality and look at it. I'm being very candid. You asked that question, so we need to step away from that point and look at it. When an entertainment company does it, when a telecom company does it, we are not questioning their ethos. Why are we questioning it when somebody who's doing it for education? Because yes, there is this fear in India and everywhere in the world that education should not become privatized. There is a security issue to that, right? But the tech revolution in education is in fact democratizing it. You can, MDI is a institute I would love to study in, right? And but it can only take 200 or 300 students in a year. But
yeah,
if you were teaching, or there was a professor from Oxford teaching there a course on marketing, 1 million students can access simultaneously. Look at the impact, right? So that's where we are. But yeah, I think it's okay to spend the money. Yeah, as long as there's metric involved in it.
yeah, if you get the right ROI. I don't see any question in
Yeah,
my this thing chat box.
neither is there any in mine.
Iti, any questions? Aditi,
She
Iti?
is here. She wanted to ask.
I think there are no more questions here. So we are done with the question round.
Are you done with the Vidhi question? I think
I'll answer the Vidhi
Vidhi was
question.
here, yeah.
I got the question. So, Vidhi, the biggest challenge in full-scale digital transition in foreseeable future in India is zero. India is a very, very adaptive market. IRCTC is one of the largest websites for ticketing in the world, and India adopted that, figured out a way of adopting digital ticketing much before anybody else figured it out, right? And I'm giving an example of IRCTC because it spans across all economic strata, linguistic barriers, education barriers, and so on and so forth. Plus, with now the innovations in an adoption of mobile banking, mobile payments,
UPI, Bhim.
voice search, right? I think it is now the best time for innovation. So, like Nishant's question, your question are actually very well timed, because if you see a gap which traditional mindsets don't, you could be creating solutions that nobody has ever dreamt of, right? Because the biggest advantage that you have today as 20-year-olds and Gen Zs is that you are not judgmental. And please never take anything for granted. Don't judge anyone, because if I say, oh my God, social media social media influencers are just a fad, I'm missing the point that Canva today is one of the biggest companies in media publishing in the world, which is helping everybody become social media stars. Kirti, you'd be very interested in knowing that in Korea, the employment rate has fallen because there is a huge chunk of the generation which wants to become self-employed YouTube and Instagram stars. It's
Yeah.
amazing, right? And the government spends 2% of his earnings, iti, on PR for promoting K-pop, K culture, and K cosmetics, which is why the whole world is being overtaken by these snail makeups and glass skin. It's not happening by coincidence. It's a very concerted marketing and PR effort. And it's changing a whole generation, how it looks at itself and how the world looks at themselves. So, yeah, I think there is nothing stopping us. This is your moment. Just go and grab it.
Yeah, so I've got one more question. This is, what our role in the bigger conversation on how technology governs and impacts society? Would you like to take it, Chandra? I didn't get the.
Sorry, what's
Yeah, so I didn't get the question. So, is it what is our role is missing? I think so. What is our role in the bigger conversations on how technology governs and impacts society? You can take
what is
both.
our role, as in your role as a user, or what is our role as in
That's
each
not clear.
individual?
Anubhuti, if you can.
That's fine. Let's just
Yeah.
talk about it as each one of our roles.
Yeah.
Too much of everything is bad, and also there's a very interesting debate, right? Like I used to live in social media. My work is about social media. My work is about digital marketing. And I did a social experiment. It's not something I talk about very often, but I have been off social media since April 2019. Okay, and you know what it gave me was the gift of time. It gave me my day wouldn't end. I just didn't know what to do. And I did a very serious social experiment. Not only did I get off social media, I switched off my India mobile phone, and I was living in the UK for 4 months, right, as a student, completely anonymous. And I just wanted to shed all the baggage. The reason why I'm saying that is that I'm not sure that extreme experiment was very interesting either. Okay. I love being in touch with people who matter to me. I wanted to know what was it that I was just doing because it was just a cool thing to do. What was wasting my time? What was affecting me negatively? Why was I spending money on products that I didn't want to use? Um, I don't like putting on makeup. I'm very comfortable with my dark circles, gray hair, and lovely smile. And it matters to me. It doesn't matter to you. That's your problem. And I don't want to buy any makeup from Huda, Nykaa, etc., just because it's the first thing that comes up on my Instagram feed, right?
Yeah.
So, what you do with your time, what you do with your access to technology, remember one thing: please do it for your own good, not because how people want to perceive you, or not for validation. India has a lot of strengths in its culture. However, because we are so into each other's lives as a family and as friend circles, everybody else's opinion matters a lot. First, your opinion matters to you. Show us a little bit of self love, and then go from that point of view. Yeah, just as long as you're comfortable, that's good. I'm just no
Yeah.
philosophical.
So I'll share something very similar. So almost, I think in India, it's a tradition that you get married, and because your mother, you have always seen her keeping a karwa chauth and all those things. So I started keeping a karwa chauth. And then almost 7 years back, I said, what the hell am I doing? And I realized that it was not a very, so that's the only fast I used to keep throughout the year, except, so besides that, I used to keep one Navratra during the two Navratras which come during a year. So three fasts. I can't fast. I'm not a person who can fast. So, and it was very uncomfortable because you cannot have water and all those things as a Hindu. And if I have a class, and then in MDI, it's like a class is a class. You just can't cancel a class. You can't postpone a class unless you are like hospitalized. So without water, taking a class used to be very difficult. And then one fine day, I just thought, "यार, ये मैं रख क्यों रही हूँ?" Just because everybody else was putting pictures on Facebook and this and that and share something. Is that so? Then I realized I never put it across. But why am I keeping it? So then I got into the history of Karwa Chauth, and I realized that women were not allowed to go out, and it was almost a way. So in marketing, we read and we learn a term socialization. So it was the only source of socialization for them to go either to a temple or to fast, because then if you're fasting, all the ladies will get together, they'll read the katha together, or wo jo thali batate hain. So at least there is some action, something is there. And I said, I don't need to keep a fast for this socialization. I have friends, I can just call up and go out and have a blast. So let's stop it. So rather than my mother-in-law, the first question came from my mother. Why? I said, it's none of your business. You kept it. Now I don't want to keep it. And I am just telling you, I'm not asking you for a permission to do this. So that time is gone that I would seek your permission. So my mother had a problem, then my mother-in-law had a problem, and then everybody like had a problem. And I said, let it be. And luckily or unluckily, my husband really fell ill that year. He was hospitalized for a week. And then, some questions came in that maybe it is because you didn't. I said, hello, nothing doing. I'm not keeping next year as well. And let's see. So it's been almost 7 years. I'm not keeping that fast. So this was the first thing. Second, I removed, so right now I have actually deactivated my Facebook account, but I removed my birthday from my LinkedIn, Facebook, all those social platforms. And I realized the only people who were wishing me on my birthday were the close set of friends, um, whose call I would pick up and return irrespective of whatever. So that was the closest set of people. So, yes, technology is both a blessing and a deterrent sometimes in our day to day life, the way we want to enjoy life. So sometimes I see people who are really, really networked and connected because of technology. They are the ones who are most unhappy and lonely. So it's very important that you just identify your balance. So technology should be an enabler. It should be a platform. It should not become your way of life. It should not become your way of living. कि अगर एक दिन हमने फेसबुक नहीं किया तो पता नहीं लाइफ में क्या हो जाएगा, एक पोस्ट नहीं डाला तो क्या हो जाएगा. So for me, when I'm traveling or when I'm away, I just do not post any pictures at all. I used to do it a couple of years back, but then I realized, I mean, why? And for me, it's very important to get an answer to this why. So I think all of us evolve with technology. So we enjoy technology when we get something new to do, but then you need to figure it out that what is that which it is doing to you. It should never be a deterrent in anything which you want to be or which you where you want to reach, but it should be an enabler. So till the time it is an enabler, it's a wonderful thing. So I love technology. I want an iPhone. I want everything really fancy and technologically upgraded, whatever I use. But at the same point of time, I don't want my life to be driven because of this technology. So you need to see where's the balance. Use it the way you want to use it. Don't become a robo that technology is driving you. So sometimes when I see people getting into this addiction of buying online because there is a deal, I mean, it's something which I can't digest. So
I do it all the time.
All right. So
right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for having us here. Thank you to the entire team of Shivaji College, Professor.
Thanks, Iti. Thanks, Urvashi and team and Aditi and everybody for having
Thank you
us.
so much, ma'am. Thank you. We'll have Iti ma'am for a vote of thanks. So, Iti ma'am, over to you.
Thank you so much. I, on behalf of Shivaji College and Business Economic Society, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to Dr. Kirti and Ms. Chanpreet for gracing their important work and sharing with us their findings and opinions today. We acknowledge your exposition on the subject, how digital media platforms have revolutionized marketing, data usage ethics, and sharing the wide coverage on Indian mobile internet revolution, digital branding online with case studies of Parentune and tech dining post-COVID. It was surely insightful experience for all. Through polling, the involvement of all participants was visible. It made this session interesting. It is highly appreciable initiatives by the speakers. I would like to extend my thanks to all my colleagues for their unconditional support. I would thank all the students involved in organizing the webinar. I would also like to thank all participants who could make it to this webinar. I'm sure each one of us has benefit that has turned the information to the knowledge. In a transition, it is Internet of Things to Internet of Everything. Thank you so much for being with us. It's been a great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy your day.
Thank you.
Namaskaram.
It was so great to have you.
Yeah.
Such an enlightening session.
Yeah.
Thanks, Iti. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Always a pleasure.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.